This is the Alaskast. I'm Austin Manelick.
And I'm Landon Albertson.
Just a couple average bros trying to be above average, trying to fill that freezer and make a little less wall space.
But in the end, it's all about the adventure.
Okay. Well, we are officially coming from Landon's ice hole in his ice shack.
We got a big ice hole here.
A mega. We're planning on trying to spear salmon. I mean,
we're not spearing salmon. We're just so you guys know, we're just trying to spear us a pike here.
It's a spike.
A spear, a spike.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure it out, man. With this, I've done the bow fishing. That's sweet. We chatted with Gavin, and he got us all kinds of hot and bothered over spearing.
He got us jacked up.
Spearing pike through the ice.
So that's what we're doing.
If there would be salmon here, they'd just be dead zombies. You wouldn't even have the opportunity.
You might see a smolt or two.
Yep.
Isn't there like some landlocked salmon sometimes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if they do it in Big Lake.
I don't know if in Big Lake if they're stocking here.
Oh, we're at Big Lake.
Oh, yeah, we're coming live from Big Lake.
We're live on the hardwater, Big Lake.
And I just cracked the first beer of the day.
So we got Landowski here of Prey and Adventure.
We got Mr. Austin Manelick here from Mission, Alaska.
And our guest today is going to be Mike.
Yep,
Go ahead.
Mike Harris.
So tell us a little bit about yourself first, Mike.
Well, hold on. We're diving in way
we
too
getting
quick.
too far? Am I getting ahead of myself?
The reason why I had a Freudian slip about spearing salmon is quick news. And quick news is not spearing salmon, but there is a personal use dip net fishery that just got passed. And so there's all sorts of new proposals that failed or were carried or not taken up, no action. And the big one that I was
a little ice crack there.
Yeah. Eyes get big. The proposal that I was really interested in is one that's going to affect us locally, and that is the Lower Susitna personal use dip net fishery. So that passed 5-2, which is really cool, but there was some language that they substituted apparently, and forgive me for not knowing the ins and outs of the Board of Game, Board of Fish. I mean, I'm trying to learn as much as I can and get a handle on it. But once you really dive in, you start seeing the regulation change process. It is really tough to even get the language correct. So I might say allocation or harvest, and it means something completely different for fish than it does for game. Imagine same, but different.
Same.
Check it out. 234, Proposal 234 passed, and that's the Board of Fisheries adopting a personal use salmon fishery on the Lower Susitna River. That'll be between Yetna River confluence, but above Bell Island. The fishery will be open from July 10th, this 2020, through July 31st on Saturdays and Wednesdays only. According to board member Israel Payton, this will be the only a 6-day opportunity for the entire year. Salmon that may be harvested include chum, sockeye, pink, and coho. Any king salmon must be released immediately. The measure was adopted 5-2, as I said, and the Alaska Department of Fish and Game has the authority to create fishery permit conditions and may also adjust a fishery based on conservation concerns. So real quick with that, some people were concerned about, well, where is this dip net fishery going? And I don't know if I agree with that because it's going to affect sport fishing, but some of the individuals didn't know how many fish were being caught by the commercial fishermen in the Central District drift net fishery, and the net fisheries as well. So basically, it's supposed to be subsistence fisheries first as far as the Constitution goes, so people should be able to subsist on salmon, then personal use, sport fishing, and then commercial, but there's an argument on species, which fishery, and it's very tough across the state because it's so big to dial in on any of the individual nuances. So basically with this fishery, this means there's going to be a little bit less fish allowed to be caught from the drift netters, as I understand it, and there's proposals in this series of meetings. That cell phone did not go in the water. So in this, they're voting on the Central District or Upper Cook Inlet fisheries, right? And that's kind of what they're weighing in on. So what some of the local people were concerned was, all these dip netters are now going to catch our sport fish. It's like, well, actually, how many fish has any of the sport fishermen caught? How much opportunity you really have to go fill your freezer on the Susitna River? It's not been that great. And so 96% of all salmon harvested in the Susitna River drainage was from commercial fishing. So I don't know about the numbers that's going to be happening there. And I'm sure
wasn't there a proposal of limiting the commercial fleets?
There was all sorts of language as far as changing boundaries, changing the names of the different areas, conservation corridors. There's all sorts of stuff where it's like, I'm not going to sit here and try to feed you some bogus material. It goes deep. So I don't know what they're restricting out there in the ocean, but I just know that the guys in river, there's going to be more opportunity. More reasonable opportunity, I believe is the language, or more reasonable opportunity to harvest sockeye salmon. So that's the quick news. I know we talked about some pike fishing last podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And
so if you guys haven't heard that one yet, you could go back and listen to Alaskast episode 5, and that's with Gavin Gaffney.
And numbering our podcast as well. It's like we're dialing this in. We're trying to get better as we go. And I mean, we've recorded this podcast several different ways, trying to get more people on. Like, that one didn't sound as good. Those two sounded good, but this guy's a heavy mouth breather. That's me.
Just stick with us. We're getting better and better. The information is good. And hopefully we catch us a fish out here.
Mm-hmm. And
it would just add to the action.
And the big thing with this is reach back out to us. If you hear something that's bogus or we're not presenting something fairly or correct in your eyes, reach out at the Alaskast@gmail.com. We might even get the Instagram going, or you can call us out on our pages, Mission Alaska or Prairie Adventure.
Absolutely. All right. So let's go into our guest here.
I guess we can dive in.
Our guests with our guests. So Mike, kind of tell us your story a little bit. First, tell us about yourself. Where'd you come from?
Well, first, there's a bigger fish down there right now.
Oh, you see one?
Yeah, I mean, it's still a minnow, but it's a lot bigger than those other ones.
It went from 3 inches to
there's 2 of them. Holy cow.
Oh, yeah.
They're coming in swarms. They're growing, guys.
Hopefully the next one's about 5 times.
Let me kind of just explain what we got going here. We got a few tip-ups surrounding our ice tent here. And then in front of us is probably a 3x3 hole we cut in the ice with my brand new ice saw. And
that ice saw, hold up. You just drove to Anchorage yesterday. Well, you work in Anchorage, and on your day off, you drove back in to go and get this ice saw, and you pulled it out. I'm like, man, how is that going to cut? Very good. That thing that's magic.
That thing zipped through. So what you have to do to get a hole this big is we drilled 9 holes, probably about 3 inches apart in a square, and then the pieces that connect in between each hole, we have an ice saw, and that has a blade on it that's probably about 3 feet long and big, sharp, jagged teeth. And that way you could cut the sections of ice that are in between the holes, and then you end up with a 3x3 hole in the ice that you're able to spear through. But this spot is new to us. Actually, spearing in general is kind of new to us. And hopefully we have something swim by, but we kind of got us a rocky bottom here. I see a lot of big rocks and not a lot of weeds, which the prey we're after, pike, usually like to live in the weeds. And we got us a tangle. Oh no, we got us a mess here.
Where'd those little trouts go?
They just swam away.
Austin's trying to catch the minnows.
I just don't want to get skunked. Okay,
What do you have on there?
that's just a little tiny. I can't even magic mic. I don't know. Tiny little jigging number. I doubt a char is going to come up and come over here and rip this paw out of my hand. So when those guys come back, I'll reactivate that rod.
Anyways, back to introducing Mike. Mike, tell us your story.
Well, I grew up in Idaho and lived in Montana for a while, and I've been up in Alaska for the past a little over 3 years, stationed up here in the military, and I plan to stay because it's just the greatest state I've ever lived in. I've been bow hunting ever since I was a little kid, and that's kind of my passion. And along with
Not just bow hunting, but traditional bow hunting.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, I've been hunting with a longbow ever since I could whittle one out of a stick and make a bale and twine string, I guess.
There you go. That one's free. Very cool. Austin's a pretty good traditional bow hunter.
Nah, I pretend.
I'm pretty new to it, but man, it's fun. I can see how you could get addicted quick.
Oh yeah, I mean the compound bows are cool. I call them cable guns. The modern advancement in vertical bows is just incredible. The bows that are out there are performing much better than they were 20 years ago. That being said, there's something romantic about Osage self bow. And you kill something with that. That's a badass street cred. You know what I mean? That's Mike and I were talking about that a little bit earlier. There's all these guys who are out there and who are doing very well with, I say traditional equipment, but back before these guys and the advancement of social media and podcasts, YouTube, even television, you had Art Young, Howard Hill, of course, Fred Bear, but Fred Bear was beyond Art Young, and Art Young was going out with self bows, 1926, making films in Alaska where he's killing moose on the banks of the frozen Yukon, making a canoe out of the moose carcass and floating the meat down and out. And you're like, you've got to be kidding me. This is 1926, black and white.
Can you imagine filming that back then?
Just big old cameras in the shoulder,
Beautiful.
bringing them around. How do you even keep the film not wet? How do you keep it going? Alaska's tough, right? Like you go out and we're all road warriors, right? I mean, for the most part, Mike, I don't think you got an airplane, do you?
No, I wish someday.
Our friendship almost got really good.
So, just being road warriors, there's a lot of badass hunters in the state of Alaska, and if you can get there with prized thighs, a highway vehicle, an ATV, people are going to be there, and you're going to be competing for a limited resource because there's pockets of animals. It's not like, Alaska, there's animals everywhere. No, like there's pockets of juice where you get in there. It's like, okay, well, somebody else is already here. How do I not step on this guy's toes? So where I met Mike was at an advisory committee meeting. We just met where Mike came in and he had he was speaking on behalf of the Alaskan Bowhunters Association. And he came up, he did a spiel, and then I looked at him and I said, well, hey, do you have any numbers about what you said? He can dive in. But I think at that stage he looked at me and I was asking him specific numbers on Dall sheep harvest. And he's like, but I don't know. And I'm like, well, I'll actually tell you. And it was, is this guy an enemy? He's sitting right next to me. Damn it. He was like, no, I got you. I'm trying to help make your point here. So, which we were meeting for this board of game of the upcoming proposals for the interior in the Arctic. And what were you saying? What was your point? I have a short but excellent memory, so refresh it, please.
So the proposals we were talking about were proposals 49, 50, and 53. And 50 and 53 were actually proposed by the Alaskan Bowhunters Association. And they're actually proposals that I'm not sure how many times they've been in there, but it's been a number of times, longer than I've been involved. But they've always been statewide proposals as far as I know, and this time they're specifically to the interior and eastern Arctic regions. And basically 50 is to extend the general moose seasons, right? It'd be a registration hunt, but it would be on the backside of all of the general seasons in those game management units, be specifically for archery equipment. So 10 days registration hunt on the end of the general moose seasons, and the antler restrictions would stay the same.
So just making the opportunity
Right.
for bow hunters a little bit longer.
Yep, with a low impact on the resource, because obviously, if you choose to use archery equipment, your chances of harvest go down exponentially, and so it would just be a way for more people to get out there longer. If they want to hunt the rifle season, they can. If they don't take anything, they can register for that 10-day archery hunt.
And that's any type of archery equipment?
Right. That's
Excluding crossbows.
excluding the crossbow, which is according to the Alaska regulations, not archery equipment. And that'll bring us into Proposal 49, which was proposed by an individual, and all of us at the Alaskan Bowhunters Association are not in support of. It basically would allow any resident hunter that has a senior Alaska resident card, which means is when they're 60 years old or older. It would allow them to use a crossbow during any archery season in those game management units without a methods and means exemption. And that would mostly affect the Dalton Highway corridor, because most of those game management units don't even have a archery season anyway. So that would allow anyone 60 or older that's a resident to basically use a crossbow on the Dalton Highway. We brought up our reasons why we don't support that. Higher harvest rates, leading to possibly lower opportunity for everyone in the future. And, not many. I mean, I know guys that are in their 70s and 80s that can still shoot well over 50 pounds with a longbow and recurve, no problem, let alone a compound with 85% let off. If you're shooting a 50-pound compound, which is legal for any big game in the state, and you've got 85% let off, you're only holding 7.5 pounds. So, if you're 60, there's people that can't. I had shoulder surgery last year, and it was hard to shoot. I was literally shooting with a mouth tab, like pulling the string back with my teeth,
Oh, wow.
And then I built back up to where I could shoot. But, and there already is a methods and means exemption that you can apply for regardless of age for using a crossbow in the archery season. So say you're 30 years old and you have one arm, or you've got some other kind of disability, you can apply for that exemption and get it and use a crossbow already during the archery season, which not everyone agrees with that either, but it is there. So as far as we're concerned, there's just no reason for that Proposal 49. The other proposal is Proposal 53, and that calls for a registration hunt from August 1st through the 9th.
For sheep.
for Dall sheep in front of all the general seasons in those particular game management units. And same concept as the moose, more opportunity, longer season, with basically no impact on the resource. There, we talked about the numbers. There's already less than 1%, right?
From one biologist I got from 2009 to 2008, there was 23,750 hunters this last 10 year for Dall sheep that participated across the state. There was 7,626 sheep. So over the last 10 years. So basically there's 700 sheep killed each year. That's about the average, 700 sheep killed each year. And I'll jump over to this number, which is 6,948. So 7,000. So 7,000 sheep, we just say 7,000 sheep were killed over the last 10 years. 89 of those were killed with a bow. So only 89 over the last 10 years in general over-the-counter, open areas that we can just go get a tag for.
So 89 of the 7,000?
89 of the 7,000, give or take 100 between, a couple hundred between the year and which data set each biologist pulled. But you're talking less than 1% of Dall sheep being harvested in general areas with bow and arrow. Okay.
Now, is that statewide?
That's statewide in all the general areas, right? All right. So that being said, now we'll dive into archery only. So that was, and all those sheep, all those 89, they would have been full curl under the full curl regulation. So DS-140, DS-141, those are drawings, DS-240, DS-241, those are all archery only Dall sheep hunts, and they're any ram, so it's not full curl. And you can tell me how many of those, right, were, okay, so basically in the last 10 years, 516 archers participated in those draw tags. So there was more people drawn, but they didn't participate. I don't know why. But so 516 of them were participated. 44 were successful. So they had about a 12.3% success rate. And those were on any rams. So we'll get into that. They were on any rams. They weren't full curl because I think it was 16.
Mm-hmm. So it was 10 full curl and 6 that met that would have been legal in other areas by age requirement. So 16 would have been mature rams out of those 44.
So there you go. And this is archery only, the juice factory of the Mecca.
So 16 of 500 tag holders
killed full curls.
Killed a legal ram in any unit.
Yes.
If it would have been.
In that unit. And this is in units where they're not competing with other rifle hunters or anybody else, just other archers. It's a different ball game. So 44 were killed in the last 10 years there. So basically, 124 sheep, according to one guy, 136 according to the other, have been killed with archery equipment in the last 10 years. And once again, I'm not going to mention names here, but I believe up to 17 of those rams, 17 of them out of all 136 archery killed rams in the state of Alaska, 17 of them were killed by 2 guys, like gifted slayers.
Well, I actually know of another guy that killed 4 within the last 10 years.
With a bow.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got
a longbow.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll chat. So at any rate, he can tell you how many draw tags real quick as far as the draw tags go, how many actual draw tags and people kill them with rifles. And usually, close to 4,000 people participated in draw tag hunts. They actually participated, not drawn, but got drawn and then participated. And there's about 1,400 people with success on the draw tags, like going out and killing full curl sheep in the draw tags. So obviously it's basically 12% success rate for archery equipment and hovering around 40 some odd percent for rifles. So your odds are exponential, obviously. But where I get at my proposal is you got to go for low hanging fruit. So there's data that you can prove, like what the actual success rate is, other than people just saying, "Well, I don't feel that you're going to be able to kill that many." It's like, well, this is actually how many are killed, how many people are participating, and it's over the last 10 years. So
then you have decisions based on actual facts and data, other than the way people are feeling.
Yeah, well, that's what a lot of the argument is in these AC meetings and the board of game meetings is, well, I don't feel like archers should have exclusive opportunity before I get a shot at them. And I don't feel. That's the key. I don't feel. Well, let's talk about the success and what it's actually going to look like. So my proposal is go for the low-hanging fruit. So the Alaskan Bowhunters Association wants that first 10 days for Dall sheep, right? Well, my thought is that's never going to go because it's conflict with the youth season, which a lot of people don't like to lose the youth season anyhow, which that's, neither here nor there. They feel like it'll be confliction with those dates, which they get the 1st through the 5th for the youth season. So basically, my proposal is to not go after that. My proposal is let's track some numbers in the Dalton Highway Corridor Management area, in the archery only area. So there's a few units that bump either side of the Dalton Highway going up, and there is some sheep there, and it's archery only on either side of the road. That's it for 5 miles. It's a 5-mile corridor from the road. So I believe it's really actually a 10-mile corridor if you're stretched from one side to one side following up the road. So long story short, extend the season. There's 2 proposals. One is to extend the season, just extend it for archery only. And the second one is if they don't want to extend it, then just open it up to registration so that they can monitor the numbers more closely. But give the archers something. Come on, give us something. 10 extra days.
And it's already an archery only area.
Yep.
So it wouldn't be taken away from anybody.
Yep. It's just giving some guys that want to go up there and go fight the winter in the Brooks Range another chance. I don't know how many people are going to participate, but it's kind of like give us something. And by the way, like with ADF&G, the full curl regulation, there's, according to several biologists that I've talked to and all the research, is that there's no way that you'll be able to kill the breeding population of Dall sheep with the current full curl regulation. So that means, rams that are less than full curl, that are less than 8 years old, not double broomed. There is, the 5 to 7 year olds, 5 to 8, 5 and beyond that are actually doing the breeding, right? So 5-year-olds aren't going to be legal generally. 6-year-olds generally aren't going to be legal, but there is, some big genetic rams, and they're going to be doing some breeding as well. So it's like you're not going to be able to kill out the breeding population, and that's the fear. But if you have the full curl regulation, you'll never be able to kill your breeding population of sheep. So that's kind of like my 2 proposals.
Yeah.
So,
well, like we had when I was at the Anchorage AC meeting, we had a member of the Alaskan Bowhunters Association show up, and he actually was proponent for crossbows. He was talking about how he thought Proposal 49 should be a thing, even though the ABA doesn't, isn't on board with that. But I was just happy he showed up and gave his opinion, because not enough people do.
Yeah, well, that's what I chatted with him about. I said, if you're going to win an argument or tell people about certain things, you've got to have some numbers versus just like field-based arguments and saying, well, yeah, you're not going to be successful with the bow. It's like, well, duh. People want to know facts. And then once you have that, you're like, okay.
Especially people that haven't done it and aren't familiar with it. Other than just taking your word for it. You can have something for them to actually look at and quantify.
Right. That's where I said with the moose, having the moose season, if you flip-flop it, right? Instead of having the ABA said, hey, we know we're not going to get these first 10 days, right? It's just not going to happen. People, it's going to be an uphill fight. And maybe over time it might. You never know. Like, people might be so sick of the competition in 20 years or 40 years, or whenever we reach 1 million people up here and everybody's chasing Dall sheep. It's like, okay, we got to do something. You never know, right? But the low-hanging fruit currently for moose and currently for sheep is you flip-flop them. Moose from the 10th to the 17th when guys are out sheep hunting, right? For archery moose, we've got 14A, and you've got some. You went in there and spent some time getting the data, which I want to hear. But if you have open up some more early archery moose season, and have some more late archery sheep season, then it's, obviously we want to hunt the sheep before anybody else gets a crack at them. And obviously we want to hunt the moose when rifle hunters are out and they're dumb drunk in the rut. That's like the argument. But still, I said, even if they are dumb drunk in the rut, it's very tough to kill a moose with a bow, even when they come in. This ain't no Jim Shockey freaking glory shot where they're coming in. This is not how.
Well, in my experience, when it's that late in the rut, they're all cowed up and they're harder to call away from their cows.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you break them up, and then it's the same thing with elk.
Yeah.
Break them up, and then you got a chance to get in between them. But it's very tough. So it's same thing with, the sheep in the early season. But a lot of people know, a lot of the OG sheep hunters that are smacking sheep with a rifle, they go September 10th through the 20th, the last 10 days, when everybody else has came down, and the sheep come down because it's, it's snowing up there, and they're coming down, they're going to feast. They're not going to have very much pressure, and that's when mega rams get killed. Less people out there, and it's better experience. But you still have people that, are out there caribou hunting, moose hunting, and I've heard of a lot of guys that are like, every blind squirrel finds a nut type of thing, where they're like, I just, I had a sheep tag in my pocket and was out caribou hunting and riding my four-wheeler, and 30 sheep crossed the road right, the trail right in front of me, and there was 2 definite full curls. I shot it, and yeah, it was 42 inches. I'm like, oh man, I'm so good for you, man. I gotta go. We'll see you later. You can't even handle it. I've heard some of those guys have been successful. Just been in the right place at the right time. They got the juju.
Well, I could see with those proposals, if they get approved, that in the future they will choose to do a choose your weapon hunt like other states. Where you get to hunt before and after, but you choose to hunt with the bow this year. That's your bow tag, bow moose tag, your bow sheep tag.
Ooh,
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, pick your weapon.
Pick your weapon, just like, Oregon.
Yep.
Oregon, you could hunt elk in September, and then rifle season starts.
So
deer.
I've been talking to a guy about that recently, and the way he feels based on talking to some guys in some of those other states is that it might make it easier to get things pushed through for bow hunters if we give something like that, like say, hey, okay, we'll choose. I'm not sure how that would go here in Alaska, but that's how some people think anyway, that it might make it easier to get something.
Yeah, I could see it. I could see it easily being done that way, because then those guys that are saying you're taking away from, or you're having a better opportunity than me,
and you get to hunt with a rifle.
So you get to hunt twice as much as I do. Hey, that's not fair. Okay, what about I get to hunt before you, but while you're hunting, guess what? I'm not going to be out there because I chose to hunt with the bow this year.
See, to me, it could work either way. That way, right? Because then you're taking away the bow hunters from the general rifle season, and so that's not going to be competition for them. But if it's open to either, you can hunt bow and rifle. That opens it up for more people that are going to rifle hunt to bow hunt as well. So I don't know which one sells better.
I mean, I would love to do both, but the guys that are, going to say, you have more than me, that's not fair. I'm not voting for this.
Yeah.
No, that makes total sense.
Pick your poison, man. Well, you know what? I never thought of that, really. I mean, that's a pretty interesting way to put it. And it's when you're in there, you can make an amendment. So for the proposal, that's how Board of Game will do it. A request change of language. And they'll change it like, hey, we like this thought, but we will do this instead. And then they vote on that, and then they vote on it as amended. So that would be cool.
How would they do? Like, say they did want to do it, choose your weapon thing. Would they have to make it to where if you register for this hunt, then you can't use a regular harvest ticket, or like how?
I guess it would be.
How would they regulate that?
It'd be similar as like other states where you'd get a bow moose tag. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, just you get a tag. You can register for it. You're guaranteed it, but this is your one tag. And if they're getting smarter with the system, so you can't just game the system and go out and kill 2 bears or go kill 2 sheep. But that being said, people are going to do whatever they're going to do. You can go out and print multiple moose harvest tags. Shoot your moose, notch your tag, come home, print out another one. If no one stopped you and chatted with you, go back out and go do it again. And I learned that in an advisory committee meeting from one of the biologists when we were voting on having your hunting and fishing license on your phone if it was signed. And we're like, well, that's kind of an enforcement deal. And one of the biologists is like, you could go and print off as many moose tags as you want, I'm like, oh, I didn't even think of that. It's just...
People do some crazy things.
Oh, man. It's not worth it, dude. It is absolutely not worth it.
No, it's not.
This isn't to give anybody any tips either. This is not a hot tip.
You know what? I'll give you a hot tip.
It's a tip on how to get in trouble.
Yeah. Hot tip. State troopers, they bad boys, dude. They'll fly. They'll find you. They'll land on you with amphibious helicopters. They'll drop in on souped up, confiscated super cubs. They are like backcountry wizards. They'll find you, and as far as their technology now with like Hilo 1, I don't know what helicopter they're up to or where their helicopters are, but I've talked to several people that have been in those helicopters from rescue situations. And they're like, well, if you're all good, we're going to swing by this camp and check it out. They're flying over with helicopters and zooming in with cameras, that can see a long ways out, like over a half mile. They can read that Sims logo on your jacket right there. So that's your hot tip. Don't play. Alaska, like I've said it multiple times, don't play at all. There is no gray areas. And if you think there's a gray area, you better think again. Well, that being said, after I give the state troopers a plug, which they are not an affiliate or a sponsor of the show, but that would be really cool to get one on.
we should.
Yeah, that's always a good idea to get your
stories.
Yeah, get some wildlife troopers on and stuff. Talk to them about some of the things they've seen and.
What kind of things different, Mike, from Idaho coming up here did you notice? What I want to hear kind of your experience of the.
Well, I guess I lived in Idaho most of my life, and then Montana for a few years, and they're pretty similar. But
chasing critters around there too.
Yep. And one of the main differences up here is, it's a lot harder just to go on a day or weekend hunt and get into animals here.
Absolutely. That's kind of the thing that I notice up here. You can't just like drive out in the woods and go, hit some logging roads and do a day hunt.
You can, but you're probably not going to see a legal animal even if you do see one, and you're going to be competing with a lot more people because there's a lot fewer access points. There's a lot fewer roads that go a lot fewer places, and then everyone's on the rivers. And
basically, if you plan a short hunt, you get to the juice and you gotta go home.
Yeah,
you're like, you get there, you're like, oh, I'm here. Oh, there's a critter. If I shoot that, I'm missing work tomorrow and the next day.
Yep.
Oh no.
Just like that's why I haven't been to the haul road yet, because if I do get 4 days off, or a 3-day weekend or something, it takes me so long to drive up and drive back, I have no time to hunt. I went to Kodiak.
What is that, like 19 hours or 20 hours or something?
Depending on how long.
Start of it.
Yeah, oh yeah. And
it's not even all the way.
Yeah, and I went to Kodiak this year for a 4-day hunt in November, which is super sketch because I had to be back at work in 4 days, and the weather was not good, and we get there, and it was so bad that even on the plane going from Anchorage to the commercial flight from Anchorage to Kodiak, we had to do 2 passes to land, and they didn't know if we were going to be able to make it.
On
We'd
the
have to come
commercial
back
flight.
Yep. And then so we knew as soon as we got in there, we knew that we weren't going to be able to fly out that day in the float plane, and so we ended up having to go the next afternoon and get there the next night in a boat. And so now you've just sacrificed, for me, because I was only there for 4 days, sacrificed 2 whole days of that trip. And we did hunt the road system a little bit, but for half a day while we were waiting. But
You see anything?
on the road system, we got into a bunch, nothing big, but a bunch of deer and close. I just didn't get any shots, but because at that time of year it's archery and muzzleloader only.
Well, there we go. Now we're talking about a little archery opportunity in Kodiak.
Yeah. Well, we were kind of talking about your story before of hunting in Kodiak. We kind of can go over that again, but because that was I've never been to Kodiak myself, but man, I really want to go.
That was my first time, and that's why I kind of said screw it, and I'll take the chance of not getting back to work in time because my buddy
I
had
might be calling in sick, boss.
Yeah, he drew a bear tag.
Oh yeah.
And so him and our 2 other buddies were going for 10 days, and he invited me along. I was like, I can be there for 4. I can be there for 4 days, then I got to fly out. And I did get my flight out. The weather cleared up just enough for me to leave, and I killed a little button buck with my bow.
That's awesome.
Trad bow.
Yep, with a long bow, way up on a mountain, right after we got done stalking a bear.
Nice.
And we ended up close to that bear too. We just couldn't see it because of the alders. But and he ended up killing a bear after I left with a rifle, and he killed 2 deer with a recurve, and our other buddy killed 2 deer with a compound, and everybody that was there for the whole time tagged out on deer.
At least got some meat.
Oh yeah, I got some of that meat too. I was a little short because last year's the first year I've ever went strictly bow hunting, and coincidentally that was the first year I've ever went not getting moose. So I needed some meat.
Yeah.
Meat crisis cannot
Meat crisis.
exist in Alaska, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the sacrifice that you have to make or something you have to accept. If you put that bow down, you might be.
Yep.
I find in Alaska, we're all pretty prideful, right? So if we're in a meat crisis, it's not something that somebody's like, oh, hey, I got a bunch, got a bunch of goat, sheep, and moose, caribou, and bear. It's coming out my ears. Do you want me? It's like, nope, I'm good. I'm going to go get it myself. You know what I mean? It's very prideful. But
I've never been that way.
We might have to hook Mike up with some meat.
oh, goodness. Yeah, I got it coming out of my ears, man. But it's primo. I give away meat that is like, I have it in my personal freezer that I'm going to eat. I've never been the type that's like, oh, this is last year's stuff. If I find something from 2015, I'm cooking it up. That's mine,
Man, I never have meat that'll.
Yeah.
I eat it so fast.
Like my in-laws, my mom, I'll go and bring them over, 30 pounds, a bunch of Copper River Reds.
Yeah.
I'll go over there. I'm like, oh, this one says 2015. They never got to it. They always
Man.
want me. I'm like, okay, well, we'll sizzle it up. It's just fine. This one time, I pulled out back when my wife was in school, and we killed a moose. I'm like, well, I'm stacking all this moose back in on top of other stuff. I better just go ahead and take out all this old stuff.
The
Then put in, the rotation. Take out all the old stuff.
Yep.
And so I get down, I go down and cooking a meal for her and her friends, and I flip open the package. It's a piece of beautiful steak, and I look at it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is in 2014, right? 2014, I remember this. And this chunk of backstrap, moose backstrap, 2005.
Holy
It's
cow.
labeled 2005.
You got 9-year age.
Oh, he's got a good age. It was like a fine cheese. It's funny. I mean, I pulled it out, but they had put it in some Visqueen, some cling wrap,
Saran
whatever,
wrap.
and then vacuum sealed it, pulled it out, and I rolled it out. I was like, oh man, cooked it up. I ate some. I'm like, oh, this is good. And then gave it to my wives, all of her girlfriends. And they're like, "Oh yeah, good moose. This is really good moose."
You didn't tell them it was 9 years
yeah,
old.
9 years old. Chunk of meat's almost a decade old. They're like, "Oh, we just love you. You're so nice." I'm like, "Oh, and here's some coffee."
How old was the coffee?
Old Folgers from camp,
Dry aged Folgers also with your moose meat.
Yeah, I made them like some old, it's like, Insta coffees that just a mouse chewed on a corner. Like, this cat can't waste it, No, I would never do that. I would never do that. Jess, Amanda, if you're listening, my wife knows me. So it's all good. But Jess, Amanda, it's all good. You guys got fresh
he's
coffee.
just teasing. You guys got fresh coffee, but the meat was a little aged.
Yeah, they liked it.
That's all right.
I also fed them some brown bear that I
Oh, really?
that year. Yeah.
How was that?
Brown bear backstrap. Yeah, it was good, man.
Really?
Up in some butter.
So many people say like, "Oh, don't eat a brown bear."
I'm down to try everything. Like when I first came up here, I all I had heard was bear no matter what is bad, and I killed a black bear, and I was like, I'll get some burger and sausage made, and I did, and that was some of the best burger I've ever had.
Oh yeah.
And so from now on, I get steaks and everything done. Depending on what time of year and everything. But
I think we're getting cooked out with some propane. I'm letting out stories of aged meat. Getting a little tuned up here.
Our heater turned off, but it's still been leaking propane in our tent here, and we're feeling a little woozy.
Oh my gosh!
But yeah, brown bear meat, man, it's pretty tasty. My first or second year up here, I got a brown bear, and that's all we ate for the whole year.
Really?
Yeah, and it wasn't that bad. You wouldn't.
Really?
I mean, what if you had it next to a moose? You'd be
yeah.
I'll take that moose any day. But I mean, if you're just eating it for tacos and all that type of stuff,
I'll take moose over a lot of things that are good.
The brown bears in Kodiak, that's tough. And some of these brown bears is on like the peninsula. That's why I'm not necessarily like a devout brown bear hunter. Like I liked it not for the trophy aspect, but as far as bear baiting, unit 16, unit 13, it's like when I go out, whether I'm bear baiting or not, I see a grizz, it's going down because it's eating moose, it's eating caribou, it's eating sheep, and I will harvest. I'll do everything legally binding. But as far as like going out and just whacking grizzlies in certain areas that don't necessarily need to be whacked, like Kodiak, for example. Granted, I put in every year. I would love to go and hunt a Kodiak brown bear, right? Oh gosh, I would love to. But also flying out, 600 pounds of meat when you don't necessarily have to from a big old stinky salmon-fed bear is a whole other thing. So, but like bears in Kodiak.
So would you take? So that's the question. And would you take the meat with you?
It depends on how many bullets are in it and where it's at, but I would definitely take a portion of meat for sure. I don't know about like how much I would take.
I would definitely take enough to try.
Right. But like, well, put it this way. Going out this year, going and harvesting bears at my bear bait. I let a couple buddies come out, and I let several people take brown bears, but I do the same thing from start to finish. This animal is coming out with us. All this meat is going to go in one location. Whatever you do with it, that's your decision. That's up to you.
Because here in Alaska, for people that are listening that might not be aware, for some brown bear areas, you do not have to take the meat.
But you have to take the hide and skull. Mm-hmm. And black bears. So you can take the hide and skull, or hide and meat, or hide and skull.
It also depends on sometimes the time of year in the area as well.
And the unit. So that's... Black bear is delicious, no matter what, say that. It depends on if they're on the salmon-fed stream and they don't have any brown bears kicking them off. But a lot of the herbaceous bears that are, Prince William Sound that aren't really necessarily getting as much fish because the brown bears kick them off the salmon rivers, and they're good. And then you have some of these like Kenai Peninsula bears. If you don't pull a Ranella and you cook them all the way through,
get some trigonosis.
I'm kind of fearful of that. It's like,
when I shot my brown bear, I made sure like
all the pieces were brown, maybe even a little blackened on the, on the
right.
outside.
So
I did not want that, or for my family.
and that comes from them eating, good numbers, good population numbers of bears, and them eating each other. That's just, that ain't a good deal. We rolling?
Roll.
So we had a little bit of a technical difficulty. Not sure what happened out there while we were slamming the ice hole for pike that never showed up. But there's a stretch of audio. I don't know who, I don't know what, but it went away. So we're now joining you from the sheep cave at the Alaska map.
Mm-hmm.
And we're off the ice now, but we got Mike Harris. We got Landon, the big Landowski.
Big Landowski here.
And we got Mr. Manelick, the madman. We don't have any Landowski. We don't have the White Russians right now, but the big Landowski. We need to get a signature drink for sure.
Oh, yeah. What can that be a combo of, you think?
I don't know. We could do a Purple Jesus. You ever heard about that?
Uh-uh.
I think it was made up back in like my Penn State days. My brother made a drink, grabbed a rag, wiped up everything that was on the table that was spilled, and then just put it in a drink.
Oh my. That's how you get pink eye.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe it's something a little bit more classy than the Purple Jesus. So at any rate, we're joining live from my house, my wife's house.
Yep.
We're here in the basement next to some sheep. Sarah over there, Mike's wife, and there's definitely a dog laying on a pile of clean laundry.
Uh-huh.
We just shoved that over. Got a sleeping kid upstairs.
Give it the old brusharoo.
Mm-hmm. Let me wipe you off a spot to sit down. So we left off on the podcast talking about brown bears, black bears, meat, harvest. And really we just, as far as the format goes, where does it go? We're flying around from all sorts of topics, but we landed on brown bear, black bear, meat.
Mm-hmm.
As far as salvaging meat, I said in the very last couple of minutes there before we took a break from getting a little bit tuned up, a little bit high on propane in the sealed up ice shack.
So that's probably where our technical difficulty happened, is because the propane was leaking. We got a little tuned up, and then old big Landowski, computer operator. I don't know what happened.
I own that as well. Okay, so Landon's is producing, editing, and doing all like the really hard work. I'm just showing up and drinking beer and trying to hang out with my friends and convince them that we're doing something productive and drinking beer and talking about hunting spots. But basically, the last thing that we talked about was taking bears on bear baits and like what you do and what your individual decision is. Ethically, you've got to take the hide and the skull, and then obviously the Alaska regulations, it goes way deeper than that depending on unit, and Alaska's huge, 26 game management units, and there's different rules and regulations depending on year. So that's why a lot of people are intimidated to come up to Alaska. It's like, well, okay, I can't go after grizzly bear, mountain goat, or dog sheep without a guide, but I can go after these other animals. You got grizzly bear, dog sheep, mountain goat. You've got to be guided if you're non-resident. Being residents, we can hunt everything else unguided, right? Even bison and muskox, you can come do that as non-resident, which is really cool. But it just the nuances. I say nuances, it's pretty lame, but the regs are pretty intense. And like as far as salvaging meat, what do you do? Can I keep it bone in, bone out? What unit are you in? And then you don't go back to the first 20 odd pages, and you're like, oh, whoops, So like that's where people can get into trouble. They can get tripped up. So like bear meat is a really big deal in salvage depending on unit. What I was getting at was, regardless, at my bear baits, I know what the rules and regulations are, but I always take the bear out, all the meat out, and then that individual who harvests their bear gets to decide what they want to do with it. And if they make something up, usually if I take somebody and say, hey man, I'd like a couple packages of meat, if you could. Mm-hmm. So we took some of the brown bear meat, which was cool, but a lot of it, I believe, went to the fishes or went wherever. I'm not exactly sure, but we did what we needed to do legally to bring that bear out of the field, put it in his hands. It's all good. But a week before, he killed a black bear, and he ended up bringing me a couple of the packages of chorizo.
Oh, chorizo. Spice.
Chorizo? Is it with a CH or a TT?
CH.
Chorizo. Did you say chorizo?
Chorizo.
Okay, chorizo. So he brought us some of those, and I brought those, and those disappear. Those are vanishing dogs, vanishing brats. Those are delicious. So we talk about meat, bear. It's really good. Black bears are really good, and brown bear, man, you can dunk that bad boy in some butter and sizzle it up. Psst, psst. It's gonna be good.
Oh yeah, with my brown bear, I turn the whole thing. Well, a third of it into breakfast sausage, third of it into chorizo, and a third of it into regular hamburger. And you could give it to any other person, and they wouldn't know any different.
Man, that's a lot of meat.
Yeah,
it's like a moose.
Yeah, we probably had 300 pounds of burger.
Holy cow!
There's some other podcasts. I don't do as much research as I probably should, but there's another podcast talking about meat, and they eat it a lot. They're sometimes like meat eaters, but they talk about these.
Maybe heard of it.
Yeah, maybe heard of it. They talk about the individuals in early America days, subsisting, surviving on meat. Mm-hmm. Bear meat. A lot of it.
Yeah.
That was a choice.
That was like their prime meat was bear
right
back in those days. Yeah.
So I don't know. Bear in Alaska, it's like, oh, is it on bears or is it on fish? It's like, well, I don't know, man. Sometimes they're on bears, sometimes they're on fish, and sometimes you get delectable little mountain bears that are tasty.
Mm-hmm. Which been eating berries, and I've heard like their meat is almost purple.
Yep. It's got the sheen.
I've never seen it, but I've heard it.
It's got a sheen like an iridescent. It's like,
really?
What are those called?
Has it got a sweet flavor to it?
I don't know. It's smother everything in butter, salted butter.
Everything comes from butter.
So, all right, what are those when girls wear, they've got the dresses with the scales? You know what I mean?
You're asking the wrong guy.
Sarah, what are the dresses that have a bunch of little scales? Sequins.
Sequins.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah, for our fact checker.
I don't know.
I don't know what that is.
You'll know when you see it. It must have been like a 90s thing, or it was a prom thing. My wife, we went to prom together a couple, 3 times, 2 times. She wasn't wearing sequins, but I've always had a thing for sequins dresses. I don't know what it is, if it's fish scales or what, but
just reminds you of a little fish.
I don't know what it reminds me of. I think I know. Maybe it was my early years going to weddings and seeing women. And I'm like, ooh, it's a woman, sequins. I didn't know it was sequins. It was the fish scale lady.
So anyways, that's what the bear meat reminds you of.
Yeah, a little iridescent, Yeah, that's a little side tangent. Bring it back. So, iridescent, the bear meat. I wonder how the bear meat would do in the world famous Madman Manelick pretzel dip.
Oh, that pretzel dip that we had tonight. I bet it would be delectable. Those things were tasty.
Yeah.
Are they? What did you guys think? Honestly, even though they're
really good.
I say they're world famous, but it's really just house famous.
No, I would say that the only thing lacking was if it just had more meat.
You wanted more meat.
I wanted open my whole mouth just full.
So there's with those pretzel buns, the teeter effect. That's why I kept managing it when I put it in the panini press, and you kind of squish it down because sometimes it falls off, and then you get you don't have the right consistency of bun to meat to bun. So I was trying to really make sure that you guys had it all layered up. The layer cake was legit.
Yeah, I liked it.
I like my meat ratio more than my bun ratio.
And those pretzel buns are they're herky.
Mm-hmm. Those things are tasty.
Little thick Rick.
Yeah.
Can you get those at Freddy's? Get them at Freddy's. Sometimes they have them, sometimes they don't because they're pretty popular. And for everybody who doesn't know, Fred Myers actually saw one in Portland. I don't know exactly where Freddy's comes from, but I believe they come from the West Coast.
They have them in Idaho, where I'm from.
Oh, okay. So I guess it's a West Coast thing. I have them in Idaho. I wonder where Freddy's ends. Where does Freddy's end?
Where does Freddy's end?
Where's Freddy's end? Yeah, you have to message us at the Alaskast at gmail.com or at Prairie Adventure, Mission Alaska, or Stickbow.
Well, MikeHarris.aba@gmail.
Hit him with the official.
With the ABA official.
Oh yeah, this man's going to be here for a long time in Alaska, and he's going to be throwing some punches for the ABA,
which is Alaskan Bowhunters Association.
Yeah, the Alaskan Bowhunters Association.
Mm-hmm. And we talk about some really cool stuff that on air, off air, I kind of don't know where it starts, where it ends. We're admiring each other's bow collection and throwing around names, just dropping names left and right. And I don't know. It's kind of like one of those things, like, where does it start? Where does it end? We missed a lot of good stuff, even just talking about the collection. But
Mike, kind of tell us what is the ABA and like how do people join? Or
the Alaskan Bowhunters Association is the state. Just like it sounds, it's a state bowhunting organization that represents Alaskan bowhunters, and we write proposals. We support pro bowhunting legislation. We donate to other local clubs. Anything we can do to promote archery and bowhunting in Alaska. And we need more members. For a while before I came on, and in the last couple of years, we've really revamped things. But I guess for a while it kind of took a downturn, and we really need to bring those members back. So,
what does a membership? What would a membership get a member, or what kind of cause is a member doing when they join?
So if they're joining, it's only $35 a year if you get a general membership.
Oh wow, that's it.
Yep, and you get four. You get a magazine every quarter, so 4 magazines a year, and you're helping to support not only by being a number in the system, being a member, but by paying that money every year, you're helping us to support all those local clubs, to go to all these board of game meetings and these advisory committee meetings and all those things. And you can also email your regional directors. Like, I'm the Matsu director, and if you have ideas that for proposals that you want to see happen for units 14A, 14B, and 13, you can email me and or call me, and we can work on those things.
So this is all as far as all like the directors or individuals who are top down, talking high level here. You're not cutting a check to show up at these advisory committee meetings and nobody. This is a nonprofit.
Right.
You said ABA, there's been kind of a downturn, and we're experiencing something in Alaska right now. I mean, just like any of the populations, just like any of the trends. All this purchasing power, all these individuals, the baby boomers, all these generational gaps. You got drop off for the ABA. Yeah. You have drop off for participation within the advisory committees, where that's why I talk with Israel Payton, who I think very highly of. And he's like, we need young blood. We need new individuals who are out there spending the time, not the guys who have figured it out how to get deeper for less money, to spend less time, to be more successful, but the guys that are like, I only have a couple of days, so much money to get out and go do this, and you're running into everybody else. There's this old guard and there's a new guard. You got these individuals that are spending an incredible amount of time to see things change for the better. Obviously, we're not... we will stand up for hunters, and we're going to shoot down any anti-hunters. But now we're kind of going against all of this land use, all this pressure, all of this is user conflict, right? And so you've got guys like us who are going out and figuring it out with four-wheelers, highway vehicles, small jet boats, etc. And my question to you is, you said there was drop-off. What's this drop-off like?
The board that used to be just kind of lost interest, or something happened and there wasn't a lot being done.
Well, that's because I believe I've been in the last 3 years that I've been a part of the AC. Maybe it's 4, not sure. But I have seen the same proposals being, put forth and heard of these same proposals, and they keep putting the same ones in year after year after year. And if you're doing something, it basically, there's like an Albert Einstein quote about insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So like I understand that, and so that's where I came at it, where I was like, hey, let's talk about stats, data. It's no longer a field-based argument because we have the data to back this up, but all those proposals that have came in don't necessarily have data. And so, and I know we talked a little bit about the data is hard, but it might be skewed by a few numbers. It's not going to be skewed by 30, 40%.
No, not even probably 1%.
It's going to be very close. That's where it's like, okay, well, one biologist got this, the other biologist got that. They may have had a year difference here or there, but it's a couple hundred, but it might be 3. Somebody might. So as far as the numbers go, that's where I talk with you and the ABA. It's like, man, I can understand why a lot of people would be falling off. It's like, man, I've fought the good fight. Like I was at the ATA, the Badlands Film Festival at the Archery Trade Association show. I sat with Brandon Wells. Brandon Waddell, Wells on Wheels, I'm thinking about his brand, who's got the Wilderness Attitude podcast, and now he's doing the Mountain Archery Festival. And he dove in, and we've got a good story, and we'll have him on sometime. But I sat next to him, and I love you, Brandon, if you listen to this, but I really love Tim Burnett. Tim Burnett is my hero. He's my dog, soul hunter. And like he started it all. I know there's Remy the man dime. He's a manimal in the field. He's going to go kill critters. But Tim is the mastermind behind it all. And so like I chat with him. I run everything up the flag. He's just a great man. He's a great ambassador for everything in all hunting industries, right? But it was really cool that all of a sudden we were sitting next to Jack Frost. I said, hey, I'm a fellow Alaskan. So we sat there talking. We both have a hard time hearing. I'm sure he's got a hard time hearing from different things. As long as like rifle blast is he's probably from Super Cub, noise. But so that's who I was sitting next to. And we all got to sit there and we're comparing notes and hanging out and watching. It was really cool films. But I chatted with Jack. I'm like, Jack, hey, by the way, not only are we Alaskans, I know Stacy. Stacy's a Penn State alumni. He looked at me. I'm like, what's going on? I was like, I'm a Penn State alum. And he's like, okay, so we shared this brief story. And then it was like, let's just catch up. I don't even care about these films anymore. That's why to me, I was sitting next to Jack. He's in Alaska. I've never caught up with him. I know Stacy. And now I'm sitting next to Jack, and he's at the ATA. I didn't even know he was here. And he is one of these individuals that has been part of the ABA for how long?
Oh, I couldn't even tell you. A long time. Decades.
I mean, older than glaciers, buddy. But I mean, this is still a man who's like, oh, look at this. If you're a young man, you're like, look at this guy. I wonder what he's doing. You think about it. And some people just don't give credit where credit's due. They see age. They may not know what's behind that age and the stories that's behind those eyes. And that guy's been a wolf. He's been flying around in Super Cubs, landing, chasing sheep with his bow in spots that I can only fathom. I've been to a couple good spots, but I know Jack's got the juice. So
been at it longer.
Oh my God, yeah. And with the bow, and his stories about Stacy, his daughter. Just OG, just OG archer. She went out a lot before she got her first sheep, and I don't know how many she's got now, but dedicated to the bow. Talk about people who've been dedicated to the craft for a long time. So,
and it's the ABA that's losing those old members, right?
Absolutely.
That's the point.
Old guard. That's what I mean. Like, and some of them, I mean, there's this old guard that's really connected to the old Alaska, right? And they don't want to see change, but also the population is growing incredibly and you have more user conflict. So you've got some guys that are not part of this old guard, so to speak, like a Jack. And then you've got like some older, the baby boomers, and they're like, no, I don't want to see change because it's really great as far as our opportunities still. But then you've got this younger generation that's going out and competing with everybody else in all the old spots. And they're like, man, I'm just getting out competed and it's not very fun.
And learning and having those new ideas. And that's what the younger crew brings to associations.
But there's not necessarily too much new. There is new, right? But
new to Alaska.
Well, and it's been around with the ABA. They've been pitching it. But now you've got different users that are coming in and more population, and it makes more sense. So there is going to be a paradigm shift. Just when is it going to happen? How many people are going to happen before these things? You know, how many people are going to come to Alaska and be residents before it changes? And by the way, being an Alaskan resident is terrible. Nobody wants to ever come up here and be a resident. The winters are cold.
Dark.
The darkness is really what gets everybody.
You can't sleep in the summertime.
You can't sleep in the summertime.
There's too much fun to do.
Yeah, right? Everyone kind of tweaks out. So Alaska's terrible. I'm like, oh, it's not that bad. Alaska's got better weather right now. It's like, nah. What really gets people is the dark. That's what gets people, for sure. The darkness, the endless dark. But
the thing about, back to the ABA though, the thing about having the new members, it's kind of like the science idea. Maybe I heard this off of the Meat Eater too, but like the old scientists, once they become a certain age, all they are doing is defending their old ideas.
They're old from Rogan, but absolutely. Yeah. Maybe it was Meat Eater too. I definitely don't listen
either
to
way.
either of those.
I heard it from one of those, but like it's the old scientist is defending his ideas before, and they're waiting for those guys to move out so that the new guys are the ones that always have the ideas of, oh, what about this? Oh, what about this? And that's what like new members bring to these kind of organizations. It's the same type of deal.
I believe the big hang up with all of this is Matanuska Valley. When I was born and raised here, right, it was like 20 to 40,000 people growing up between Palmer and Wasilla. And I've been here born and raised since 88. There is 100,000 people here now. Insane. All these spots that my dad used to go with the Kodiak or the Suzuki King Quad when he was like a big deal. I got this King Quad and he's going down trails and stuff and he's a bad boy. You go down there now and that thing is a freaking mud highway. Go for it, buddy. So there still is pockets. There still is certain things you can get to places to go off and hike, but still what we're getting at is the population's growing. There's an old guard that doesn't want to see it change. There's a young guard that says it is going to change, but what do you want to see it look like? Do you still want to have over-the-counter opportunity as a resident, or do you want it to all go draw, buddy? If it all goes draw, good luck hunting any of these over-the-counter areas because it all is slowly starting to go draw. Just like I've talked to guys behind closed doors after these AC meetings, and I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus back when it used to be 2 sheep and people are going up behind Anchorage and whacking 2 sheep is what he told me. I don't know what the regulations were like in the 70s and 80s, but all of a sudden, Pioneer Peak, all these different areas, Chugach, guys are going back there. Yeah, I killed one with a bow. It's like, yeah, what was the sheep hunting like? They're like, oh, we used to do it for fun. I got 30 I got 30 sets of horns in my garage that I do nothing with. It's like, cool, man. You're just going and abusing a resource, whatever. So then some of those guys that are a part of all these different organizations says, yeah, I want people to change the regulations because of me, but I'm going to show up, donate my time, and vote against those guys. So the new guard's got to step up and come, and there is kind of an old boys process where I'm like, hey, when you go to these meetings and when you go, yeah, you can let everybody know what you're doing, but some of them, as far as the guides go, there's guides that are showing up that want to sit there to increase their opportunity versus the residents, right? Or keep their opportunity versus dwindle their opportunity. And there's just That's, we can go into concluders. We can talk about this forever, but it's kind of like, that's my concluder as far as the old guard, the new guard, what is going to happen, and what's Alaska going to look like in the next 20 years when my son is hunting on his own, when I'm worried about him going and doing stupid stuff, clinging to the sides of the mountain because I can't go where he goes. That's what I'm concerned about. I don't care about me. I'm going to have the juice. I figured it out. I know what's going on. I'm going to keep cherry picking and keep doing my thing. Catch me if you can. But I really think about what's going to happen in the next 20 years. I talked to Casey Dinkle. Casey Dinkle, he does 60th Parallel. Another cool dude. I'll name drop Casey. He showed up. He was actually, I believe, from Wyoming originally, but he came up to Alaska, and he's been up here for a few years now, and he's taken advantage of a lot of opportunities. And we go back and forth of like, okay, well, we're not the old guy. We're kind of the new, but how's this all going to work out to continue like our opportunity? And he got a big kick out of this sheep. It was a sheep meeting, but it was like an impromptu sheep meeting. I'm not actually sure the organizations that were all involved, like a sheep workshop or something like that. But apparently, an incredible amount of people showed up. It was some hotel or some banquet in Wasilla, and Jack Frost came out, and everyone's talking about sheep, talking about the same thing that we're talking about. And obviously, we circle back around sheep because sheep are, the most prized possession next to moose and grizz. Those are the three most, highest valued resources. Here's a workshop, and everybody was talking. Everybody was getting fired up, New England style assembly where everyone can stand up and come and chat and voice their opinions. Apparently, Jack Frost got up there and said, "You all value your opportunity to hunt over-the-counter Dall sheep without permits." And everyone's like, yeah. Might have even been somebody that yelled, "Hell yeah." I'm ad-libbing that. Is that you? I'm ad-libbing that.
Was you that guy?
Casey did not tell me that. I'm just picturing this, right? And Jack said, "Yeah, hell yeah." That could have been me. I wasn't there. But he said, "Well, everyone's been talking. I have a solution to all of this. Statewide. No draw tags, no permits, residents only, statewide. Archery only." And everyone, Casey said, you could hear you could hear a mouse fart in that room, or a pin drop, whatever. And everyone was like, they just listened to it and thought about it, processed it, because Jack Frost getting up there. And then everyone, everyone starts chuckling and laughing. It's like, well, think about it. It was meant to excite, meant to entice, but that and what he said was kind of a mic drop where everyone started thinking, it's like, well, if it was draw only, or could I go out every year and do an over-the-counter sheep hunt? My final. This is final because I've been
okay. We went on final. Now we're final.
I'm on final approach. Okay, so I talked a little bit about this with you off air, but let's talk about one of these primo badass sheep spots that you look and you go by and you're like, oh my God, people are taking pictures of these beautiful sheep. They're right there, and you can go if you got a governor's tag, or you can go and you go do this. Trad only. Right. Registration. Trad only. Make a separate bow hunter classification. If you pass the bow hunter education course with your trad bow, you're going to get put in for this, because the sheep are still going to live and people are still going to be able to take pictures.
And then all the tourists just taking pictures of you sneaking on them with your trad.
Just full draw.
Only in Alaska. And it just barrels down on the highway.
Well,
awesome.
Oregon has some traditional only, and I have to talk to some of those guys, see how they did it, but it would be interesting.
When we're Jack's age, something's going to happen where we get something juicy and we're going to be like, right. I wish this happened. I'm bummed up. I can't even hold my damn bow back.
You guys have the voice now.
Oh, we're gonna, dude. I've been
exactly
preaching.
What the proposals are for.
That's why I've been putting in proposals and doing it separate from all these other entities. Where I'm like, hey, let me just make this a win-win for everybody.
Right, and that's how you got to start. You got to start small. You got to start just getting bow hunting opportunity to begin with, because we don't have a whole lot compared to other states, barely any. And then once you get a foothold, you can start looking at things like trad only, and you have to change some definitions and things like that.
So for final thoughts from you, Mike, what do you want to plug? What do you think?
Well, people, everybody has an opinion. You talk to anyone, they all have an opinion. They all want to see this, they all want to see that, but it doesn't mean anything unless they actually do something about it. And Alaska is, it's super easy to go to the Fish and Game website and, look at the proposals and comment online on those proposals, and those comments all get looked at. So that's super important. I'm not sure when this is going to air. Might not be in time for the 21st when the deadline is for these upcoming proposals.
Yeah, that's the end of this.
Right. But they can still show up to the Board of Game meeting next month. But you need to get involved, even if it's just becoming a member of an organization like the ABA or APHA or whatever you're interested in, whatever you're passionate about. At least join. At least give your $35 a year. And what I say, if you're a bow hunter and you have hunts in Alaska, you do hunt in Alaska, or you ever want to hunt in Alaska, you should join. $35 a year for an individual, $50 a year for family, or $500 a year for life member. All right, if you need a link, you can go to the Alaskan Bowhunters Association Facebook page and scroll down to see the picture that says Preserve Bow Hunting in Alaska. And there's links to all the proposals and to exactly where you need to make the comments.
Which kind of will bring me into my final thought.
He's doing final thoughts here. Go to ABA's website, and then there's links there if you want to make posts, a comment to see more bow hunting opportunities in Alaska. Continue. Sorry, that was just a little social plug there. And you can probably even I'm gonna leave this to you right here. You just go ahead and type that link up. I'm just asking you to recall it on memory. I could probably just pull it up. We're doing podcasting, Instagramming at the same time.
It's called multitasking.
Oh, we're just pimping archery hard.
So my final thoughts are, if you don't submit a proposal, or if you don't join these committees, if you don't join these associations, your voice will not be heard, because you will not have a voice. And so just not joining these groups or having a voice out there, other people will have a louder voice, and then you can't complain about the decisions.
What we're getting at is action. You've got, I talked about this a little bit earlier. I'm going into final. I'm going into concluders cubed, buddy. The deal is, yeah, you can be all about conservation and think you're doing something, which a lot of people are. And don't get me wrong, I appreciate that, and everybody does, to keep the sport going strong. Whether you know what you're doing, you're just getting into it, where you're trying to introduce people. If you really once you get beyond that initial level, and you're like, oh man, I've killed a lot, I've helped people kill a lot, but I'm really looking to make sure this is around for my loved ones, make sure this is around for everybody to enjoy, especially as the population increases in the United States and worldwide, globally. You gotta get involved. And how do you get involved? I mean, I had an individual, Bob Castle, reach out to me personally. Bob reached out to me, and I heard of him, knew of him. He reached out to me, had a dinner with me one time, and it was enough. It was a tipping point where I said, yep, you're absolutely right. And I've had several individuals do that for me that I absolutely respect and I look up to. And if you got a voice, use it for the right things, and dive in. Conservation first. Conservation is not just buying things and going out and hunting the animals, but getting behind and actually understanding what people are trying to do, because there's people out there that don't have the same mind as you. And I'm not just talking about rifle hunting versus archery. I'm talking about people trying to shut down hunting altogether, and letting it go back to, caveman days, just letting it letting nature sort itself out. So you really gotta dive in and be a part, especially if you know. And if you know better. Like, be a part of an organization, and if you don't want to do that, donate your time. Show up to these advisory committees, and there's advisory committees, and there's other regulation process that go on in all 50 states. I'm not exactly sure those processes, but in the state of Alaska, you can be a part and you can have a huge voice, and that's how I met Mike. I'm very glad that I met Mike there at that meeting, because I don't usually throw around hunts to go and spend time with people. But after that meeting, after going and throwing a couple of holes in the ice together and spending a half day together, so yeah, I'm going to go on a hunt with you for sure. So long story short, you meet some great people, you make great friends, potentially hunting partners. It's amazing, man. The more you get involved, man, it's self-awareness game is strong, the better you feel. So that's it. I'm out, man. Drop Mike, crack another beer, whatever you want to do. I'm glad that I met you, Mike. I'm glad we got to spend that time together and it came out.
Appreciate you coming and twice.
Yeah.
for the re-record.
You did that on purpose.
I just wanted to see him again.
I can't throw it under the bus. Maybe I did it, man. When you weren't looking. The propane stupor.
I need to see Mike.
I need to see Mike one more time.
Hit delete.
Anyway, so check out Mission Alaska YouTube website, Brand Adventure YouTube website and Instagram, both of us. Stickbow03.
A stick and string 03.
Stick and string 03. But more importantly, check out Alaskan Bowhunters Association. Get involved.
Or adfng.com. You really want to get in a downward spiral of education and knowledge that's endless there. And you're really getting good at these closeouts. Then we got a co-host situation. I don't even know where I sit.
That's because I have to close you out 4 or 5 times before we get in this.
What are you guys doing tonight? I'll keep you here for a couple more hours. We got this Alaska map behind us. We could talk forever.
It's too easy.
Yeah. But real quick plug for selfless, shameless plug for Soul Hunter. So I always edit a lot of my films and edit out a lot of the stuff, because I'm like, man, I am just so damn lame. You're your own worst critic. But Soul Hunter edited together 30-minute, maybe it's 20. I didn't watch that one either. I just know he sent me a text message, Tim, which we're going to have on shortly, is that, it's got 140,000 plus views. I'm like, whatever. I look at it, I still can't look at it. So I didn't rate Soul Hunter. Yeah, Soul Hunter, the extended version of some of the adventures are going to be there, and we're all going to go do an adventure, and this is just kind of like the beginning of some greatness. So I appreciate you both and all your time. And maybe we'll have some bear pretzel dips in the near future.
I'm hoping so. I got to be on my shooting game.
You killed a bear yet with a bow?
No. I've never even really dedicated time to hunting them with a bow. It's more of like a moose hunting. If I see a bear that's doable, I'll go out.
You kill one with a bow?
Oh yeah.
You killed a black bear with a bow?
Mm-hmm. In Oregon.
Oh, you killed an Alaska bear?
No.
You're not really Alaskan until you kill a bear.
Well, I've killed a grizzly bear, but not with my bow. It was within bow range, 10 yards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I shot one with a shotgun at 10 yards.
Yeah, see. So you're up for black bears?
Yeah.
And you're up. And I guess I'm just gonna film, because I gotta save on this taxidermy bill, boys.
You gotta bring a bow along just in case.
You gotta bring the bow. You gotta bring the weapon. You gotta bring it all along. But hey, once again, I really appreciate it. I can't do any more concluders. I'm all out, boys. But
appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening.